Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time. This time on the Kindness Project, the Tardis architecture, and we have part 2 of our interview with Louise Baker. Hello my friends and welcome to the Kindness Project. I am joined by a girl who's a door lover but can't get one open. It's Charlotte Dames.
I'm joined by a man who's starring in a new TV show, Man versus Dishwasher.
Look, I never pretended I was particularly practical, and I've got to admit, the dishwasher did beat me this morning. I didn't know where to put the dishwasher tablet. Now I know, I can do it all the time. Not going to do it all the time, but we'll give it a go. But how about your new TV show, Woman versus Door?
You just don't like me. First it was our own door, and now it's someone else's door.
Yeah. But we were having a conversation before we started the podcast on what our favourite doors were, weren't we? And you said sliding, and I trumped that, I think, with a revolving door.
Yes.
But you said you wanted a door that went up and down. Why?
Because it's spacey weasy.
Because it's spacey wacy. Well, the TARDIS has got an in and out door. Surely out of all the doors in the world, the TARDIS is the most spacey wacy door.
Okay, but you know when they go into like the alien spaceships and stuff like that, and they have to roll under the doors. I live for those moments in TV shows and movies.
What you want is you want every door to make a spacey wacy noise, so it goes like that. Yeah, as in like every single space thing ever, there's always a noise a door makes, and it's usually like that. It's quite a good door noise. But I think, you know what? When I was a kid, right, I had a favourite door, right, and my favourite door was the entrance to the National Gallery in London, right? Because when I was about 7 or 8,
I quite like the IKEA door.
You like the IKEA door?
Yeah, it spins.
Yeah, well that's the same as the National Gallery one. The National Gallery one had a revolving door. And what I used to do is go around the door, run around the gallery, not looking at any of the art, just so I could go back and have another go at the door. And I used to do that 3 or 4 times. My granddad used to take me down London, and I love that door. I love that door. But that is not question of the podcast, listeners, because we thought doors might be a bit niche. So we're going to go for this week's question of the podcast. What's your favourite piece of architecture? What's your favourite building? What's your favourite building?
My favourite building at my home.
Oh, why are you home?
Because I get to sleep here. And eat here.
Right. So your favourite building is basically based on sleeping and eating?
Well, I wouldn't have anywhere else to put my books, would I?
And reading. Anything else?
I keep all my stuff in my house.
And
like
holding.
My family.
Sorry, are we objects now? Is that what you're saying? I keep my stuff here. I allow my family to live in my house. I keep my family in a little cupboard.
Under the stairs.
I'm every part of all of a sudden. What's going on here?
We don't live on Privet Drive, mate. Sorry to break it to you.
Right, okay, so apart from the house where you keep your family under the stairs, what's your favourite piece of architecture? What building do you look at and go, wow?
The Parthenon.
The Parthenon is an amazing piece of architecture. Yeah.
First I go, wow, because my knees are in. I've just climbed up that mountain. But afterwards, it's like, whoa.
So yeah, oh. So the first reaction is, oh. Without you know how it feels now with hurting knees. I mean, because I'm quite tall, trying to get my knees under them stairs when you've shoved me under there at night is really difficult. But I remember because we Sophie and Mummy didn't want to come, did we? So we went to the Parthenon, and even though it was a long trip up, definitely well worth it. So 2 for me. I like the Gherkin. I like funkily shaped buildings.
Like the cheese grater.
The cheese grater. Have you ever been up the cheese grater?
No.
I have, and the views from there are amazing. I'm not a big fan of the Shard.
Yeah.
But the gherkin I like the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. You know, the church that's very Gothic.
Is that the one we weren't allowed inside because we were wearing shorts?
I think so, yeah. But yeah, that is an amazing piece of architecture. And what else? I quite like the... what else do I like?
Oh, you're a bit of a building obsession, isn't you?
No, I have. I mean, you did accuse me of train geekery while we were in Japan, and now I'm going building geekery. Tell you what else I like: the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur. They're
never been, but
I have crossed the bridge. It's amazing. So, listeners, you can get in touch with us. And tell us what your favourite building is on the following email and social media channels. Take it away, Charlotte.
His brain blanked. You can see it in his face. He was kind of going...
I was still thinking about buildings.
Okay.
And being locked under the stairs for the night. Go on, tell our listeners where they can get in touch with us.
Don't worry, I built like a Tardis in there, multi-dimensional. So email ola@thekindnessproject.co.uk. Facebook, we're The Kindness Project, and there's a search bar. And so Google has a search bar too. You know, we pop up first thing. It's brilliant, you know. I feel like I'm gossiping. Twitter, we're at Ola Kindness. So just pop over and say Ola. So, am I missing anything? We have an Instagram. I think it's at Ola Kindness, but no one really uses it.
We need to get a bit more video on Instagram in our life, don't we? So we'll get that done. And and that brings to an end what I feel has been the geekiest
building
intro to the Kindness Project.
Oh, no, we did have that one where we talked about book characters.
Yeah, we did. But buildings is a bit more niche. I wonder how many reactions we're going to get from favourite buildings. We will see.
Yes.
Shall we crack on with the show?
Yay!
So, in our brand new segment for 2020, we are going to share a few bits of good news happening in the world.
Can we do the good news generator? Can I press the button?
Press the button. What to the boop at the end? You know what? I thought you were going to go boop. In it, like a door opening, sci-fi door opening.
I'll do that next one.
Boop. Right. The first piece of good news is about a man in India who planted a tree every day for 35 years. The work that he's done has created a forest larger than Central Park. What do you think of that?
It's good. Now we can all breathe better.
Well, I mean, you know what's going on sort of the Amazon at the minute, which we've spoken about before. Not good news, but it shows that potentially if one bloke can do that, what could we potentially do collectively? Exactly. And can I just say a massive amount of sympathy for what's going on with the forest fires in Australia at the minute. Certainly I'm going to be donating some cash to a cause that supports that, and let's make sure that we're doing what we can to help people. But there are people who are trying to counteract some of the damage that's done to the environment, and that man in India alone has created a forest larger than Central Park, which is amazing news. In other news, sea turtles are making a huge comeback with their populations increased by 980%. That's because of the Endangered Species Act protecting them. Now that's amazing, right? Mm-hmm. But the only experience of sea turtles I've ever had... No, I've had two experiences of sea turtles. Number one, Finding Nemo, right? Finding Nemo. There's a bit in Finding Nemo where the sea turtles are surfer dudes.
Oh, I love this.
That's amazing, isn't it? Sea turtles are surfer dudes, and
they all kind of sound like they're high, but it's cool, man.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah. So I'd love to surf with a sea turtle, but I don't know if you remember this. You were only very young.
I do remember. We
were in Sri Lanka many years ago, and we got the opportunity to, because in Sri Lanka they've got a an issue with egg poaching, turtle egg poaching, and we got the opportunity to collect turtle eggs, take them back to the hatchery, see them hatch, and release turtles back into the sea.
So adorable.
And I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing experience.
I remember it being really dark.
Yeah.
And we kind of just let them go, and they scuttled along the sand. Cutest thing ever.
Yeah, that as an experience was. I mean, Sri Lanka's an amazing country, but that as an experience, going there during the day, waiting for the sun to come down, because for some reason you can't. I don't think you're meant to release sea turtles, or it may have been a tidal thing actually. But
you never know. It could have been because they would be more difficult to see by like vultures and stuff during the night. Because I know that there's a lot of issue with them being eaten like birds as well.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, just what humans are doing to help conserve sea turtles. But apparently sea turtles are thriving again thanks to the Endangered Species Act and helping people do that. Thailand supermarket says no to plastic packaging and wraps produce in banana leaves. Again, another good idea. I'm guilty probably of buying too many plastic bags. Are you? But I've tried now. I think the 10p bag tax, it's not about the 10p, it's just the hassle of, has done more to just say, well, actually, I don't need a bag.
I know some supermarkets are even upping it to 20 now as well.
You know what I wish? I wish that when I bought a bunch of bananas, it wasn't in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
Or orange. Like, don't put naturally packaged fruit in another bag.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a good reason behind it, but if you can avoid plastics that way, I say why not?
And why not just use biodegradable packaging that will actually decompose?
Yeah.
Because like plastic takes forever to decompose, and even though it can be recycled, it's just.
That's it. Yeah, I don't know. But we need to, I think, as a society, we're getting better, but we need to do a bit better on that. So, but there's loads of good stuff happening in the world.
Yes.
That's this week. Have we got a trailer for good news yet or not?
No.
This is something we work on. Listeners, can you do us a favour? If you'd like to record a trailer for good news or end of the show, please feel free to do that and we'll be happy to play it. So, yeah, send in your musical attempts and we might give it a go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's get on with the show. So this week's interview is the second part of the interview with Louise Baker. Now, you'll remember from last week, if you haven't listened to last week's show, go and give it a listen. It's quite a good one because you talked about rolling a lot, didn't you?
Oh, that is the stuff.
But we also spoke to Louise Baker about her Postcards for Kindness project.
Yes.
Now, we as a family do this. We send postcards to elderly people who are lonelier in care homes, and we try and help out with that. Louise Baker's started what you can only call really a movement. And she's doing amazing work in this area. Shall we listen to the interview? I think travel is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because it's one of those things that people do. I mean, I certainly do. People genuinely get excited about, even if you're not travelling, because you want to hear about those experiences people have had. Just generally, is there a trend in terms of what's written on the postcards, or is it love from Taiwan, or does it go into a decent amount of description about the place?
Do you know, I think it depends on who's sending, because we've got some people who have chosen, for example, it's a really lovely term, I love it, but I think the members coined it, but they've adopted a home, or two, so they might, rather than writing to as many homes as they can, they've adopted 5 or 6 homes maybe, and they've built up a real rapport with them. So what might have started off as a sort of hello, my name is, this is where I live, because actually not all of the postcards now are from holiday destinations or day trips. They might be sort of postcards of the place where somebody lives, for example, and they're telling people elements of their lives lives, sharing sort of stories, and it's more about the connectivity of moments than places. So we've got, people who are writing, keeping it quite general. We always say, sort of, imagine you're writing to a family member, a relative, and keep it nice and informal. A lot of people like to ask questions, so they'll send a card as a prompt and say, I've been to the cinema, what's your favourite film? And those always just spark conversation everywhere, because the residents then, they don't have to be writing back, they can be responding to the questions. Activities coordinators are using them, so we've now got Postcards of Kindness clubs set up at the care homes, where they'll sit together and they'll go through the questions. They might write back, for example, they might choose care homes that they want to write to. So the cards sort of vary, I think, in content between being sort of quite familiar, those who are sort of being quite familiar with the residents they're getting to know, or, we've got postcards that have come from, the other corner of, the other side of the world, where they're just telling them about some of their traditions and customs. And then we also have cards that are coming to residents that may have lived somewhere else. So we have quite a lot of people who are sending cards in the language of a resident who might be living over here, but was brought up somewhere else, and they're feeling sort of quite unconnected. They're quite disconnected to their surroundings, and having something, actually a postcard written in a mother tongue, for example, has been amazing for them. And we've got all sorts of languages. Sort of people saying, I could write a postcard in Polish if you'd like. And we've got residents who actually really appreciate that, because they might not have anybody at the home that can converse with them.
That speaks in their mother tongue.
They've got a link back to where they might have grown up, and fading memories are then sort of peaked again. They're coming back.
Because reminiscence is important, isn't it? I mean, remembering those memories in the past are really important. And I think we've interviewed a couple of people on our podcast about befriending. So I know Age UK do a big project, and we've interviewed them about how they help younger people befriend older people, just to help both parties. Weirdly, the conversation we had was with a guy called Jason, who spoke about this, and he said it started off as me trying to help somebody else, but now we're just mates. And he's got a lady who's an 88-year-old lady called Beryl, and he's in his 40s, and he's just got a new friend, and it's just turned into an interesting relationship. So I can see how that relationship has been built by, like as you say, somebody adopting a home as something they send to consistently. Help me understand a bit about, because you must have some weird and wonderful postcards come through, mustn't you?
Those that we see, because obviously some people are just sending them in sort of their own time, but those that are sort of sharing their postcards to the group, we do have some fantastic ones. We do have, we have people every now and again saying, do you think these postcards will be all right? Do you think they'll be appreciated? And I think, to be honest, a lot of them, they're fantastic. We've had the potentially risque sort of seaside postcards.
Okay.
And, looking back now, a lot of us, some of the members have sort of said, do you think these will be all right? They're not going to offend anyone, but they're of the era where a lot of our residents would have grown up in sort of cheeky humour. They really relate to. So we've had quite a few of them. They're always great fun. And we had the one that really sticks out was somebody who bought a random packet of postcards, I think, online somewhere, and one of the postcards was just a brick wall.
Okay.
It was a postcard of a brick wall, and I remember them sort of saying, does this win the prize for the most boring
postcard ever?
I don't think I'll be sending this. And a lot of members have said, no, if you send it, they can decorate it and put graffiti on it or something. So even a postcard that you might look at and think, I'm not going to send that.
Where?
That sparked a thread completely of its own. And we just had one about black cats as well, because the lady said, I really like black cats, but they're quite difficult to rehome. Should I send them, or is that not going to be appropriate? And there's now an entire thread of pictures of black cats.
Okay.
So I think when you were saying about the gentleman who's now sort of being helped as much by contacting his new friend as he's helping her, I think a lot of our members are finding quite a lot of solace in one another and in what they're doing. We have members, for example, we might say, after a really hard day, really bad day, I come home and I write a postcard and, it feels a bit better. So, and that was something completely unexpected, that to come from the group. I'd never really imagined that we might help the senders as much as because we were just quite focused on,
Yeah, I mean,
let's help the community around the care home. Let's draw them out back into the community. And actually, what we've done is brought the community into the care homes, and we've connected people with people with shared memories and things who are part of the group as well. Yeah. So that's been really lovely.
That doesn't surprise me, actually, because a lot of the conversations we have on the podcast is about kindness being quite selfish in the best way possible, because it does make you feel good knowing that you're helping somebody else out. So it's interesting.
Yes, I think it's a lot of people have sort of said how, like I said about turning the little red squares green and things like that. A lot of people have said it's just really addictive to send out sort of postcards and to share that's what you've been up to. But even those, I think sometimes people say, well, I'm only sending 1 or 2 a week, but that moment in time is going to mean the whole world to somebody.
Else.
Don't be discouraged whether you're sending 1 postcard or 100. For example, each one of our members means exactly the same to us and to the people that they're sending to.
Right. Now, I'm super curious about this now. This brick wall postcard, right? So somebody sent a postcard from a potentially tourist destination of a brick wall. Where is this place?
I think it had come from, because a lot of people now, rather than now holidays are coming to a close, they're going to places online and to sort of thrift shops as well. Apparently, have been really good for postcards. So they're not just buying postcards of tourist destinations. They're now we've got quite a lot of character cards, for example, sort of quite vintage cards. And the one of the brick wall, I think, happened to be in a packet of cards of scenic views and things.
Scenic views.
Just a random postcard.
So I'm just wondering what else was in that pack. Like I don't know, you got a picture of a wall and then a picture of the floor and then a picture of I don't know, light fitting. I'm not sure. It's just.
I think all the rest were what you would consider sort of standard postcard fare. I think that's why this one stood out, because
Absolutely.
It was a packet of postcards of views, and then there was a brick wall. So,
look, Louise, if you like,
that one really started a conversation.
Look, if you like walls, why not? There's somebody out there who will like that view. So it's interesting.
Somebody did suggest actually that there might be residents who were connected with the bricklaying industry, builders, construction workers, engineers, who could, would probably really appreciate that frame, for example. So, don't discount anything.
No, big time. No, I'm there. So it's grown to a massive scale that you didn't expect. What's next?
Oh, goodness, yes.
What's next?
Well, space, if you're listening, anybody, but no.
Space, yeah.
I think we're just... It did grow exponentially. I thought, we'd be lucky for a few thousand members, for example, and we were quite lucky, I think, in terms of being supported. Age UK have been massive supporters of us and have shared the cause. And Royal Mail picked up on it. I suspect maybe their posters have noticed a few extra postcards, but they shared it. And I think within the space of a couple of days, we've grown to about 20,000 members from a couple of thousand.
Okay.
And it snowballed from there. So I think while the group members and while the care homes are sort of getting so much out of this, we're going to rumble along. I think we're all pretty focused on what we're doing and just loving every second. So I don't see us winding down anytime soon. Yeah,
and you've been running this since the summer, but it's been going on for a bit longer than that, hasn't it? How long?
Yes.
So is there any? So as we're coming up to Christmas now, is there more demand for like seasonal postcards and does it change?
I don't want to say too much because we're not quite ready to launch yet. But several members have sort of said, there's no reason why we can't send Christmas cards. And we have actually got something in the pipeline that will be launching. Do you know what? It might even be next week. I'm so confused with what day it is. I think at the moment, but postcards are. Christmas cards are on their way.
Amazing.
So the next big thing to look at.
So we won't be publishing this on this week or next week. So by the time this is out, keep an eye out, and it will be Christmas cards for kindness as well.
Yeah,
so,
well, yeah,
so all
exactly.
good.
Yeah, by the time this goes out, come onto the group and find Christmas cards.
Amazing. Before we close, what we do on the Kindness Project podcast is every week we ask our listeners a non-kindness related question, but just because we're curious people. So I'm going to ask you a couple of these, Louise, just random trivia questions. If you could be any character from one of your favourite books, who would you choose?
Oh, that's a good question. I think possibly I'd be George from the Famous Five.
Okay.
I grew up with Enid Blyton, and I think the idea of being George and having Tilly the dog and just going wherever the wind takes me, I think that appeals, especially now as I'm sort of growing up on adventure, doesn't seem like so easy to come by.
Fair enough, I like that one. Who's your favourite Muppet?
Beaker.
Beaker? Why Beaker?
I don't know. I think it's because he's quite sort of sweet with his little beep beep noises that he makes. Yeah, no.
Sorry, I didn't catch that impression. Do you want to do that again? I mean, that was amazing. That was amazing. So the thing is, my favourite's animal, and my animal impression is absolutely shocking. But that Beaker was spot on. That was really good. What's your favourite work of art?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay.
I quite appreciate. Is it Starry Night? Is it called? I think by
Van Gogh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the chance to see that. I mean, because it's in New York at the minute. So I was in New York a couple of years ago and got to see it. And I got told off by a security guard because I was so entranced by A Starry Night. I got very close to it, and then I got told by a big burly American security guard that perhaps I should move back a bit. Yeah, it was a bit scary at the time. What's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
Do you know what? I think probably be true to yourself. You know, as long as you're being true to what you believe in, and you know, sticking to what you do, I don't think you can go wrong.
I like that advice. I think that, you know, authenticity is so important. I think.
Yes. I think because you know especially these days, I suppose you're quite sort of social media and Instagram particularly, maybe it's quite easy to try and be somebody else for other people's benefit. And you know what, if Postcards of Kindness has taught me anything, it's just that, you know, you're not going to go wrong by being yourself, and you know. And also, like, we are all flawed in some way, aren't we? We all make mistakes. We've all got our own eccentricities and stuff like that. So why not celebrate it instead of pretend it doesn't exist? Well, exactly.
What's your? This is a good one for Postcards of Kindness. What's your funniest travel story?
Do you know what, the one that sticks out, I think, was going to France as a teenager. My grandparents lived over there, so we used to go over there quite a lot to see them. And I think maybe not necessarily a specific moment in time, but it was that one particular holiday, and my cousin and I befriended a very large group of French teenagers, sort of our age, and we couldn't speak much French and they couldn't speak any English, but we'd just go and sit on the beach in the evenings anyway, and that sort of the language gap didn't really seem to matter.
Okay.
And that was some sort of lost in translation moments, I think, there that were probably quite amusing. But that's one that sticks out just as being sort of a moment where everybody came together.
Fair enough. You know what? When that first came out, and this is an example of me trying to celebrate some of my mistakes. My funniest travel story, it hadn't happened because it only happened a few weeks ago. But I went to Gibraltar a couple of weeks ago with my dad. I take my dad away on holiday every year. He's in his 70s now, and got off the plane and got into the cab to go to the hotel, and the cab driver wouldn't take us to the hotel. And I said, well, why not? It's the Hotel Gibraltar. He went, well, it's called the Hotel Gibraltar, but you've actually booked a hotel in Spain.
Okay.
So I'd literally booked a hotel in the wrong country, which was, and literally I could see the hotel. It was 10 minutes over the border, but I Google mapped it, but I just completely got it wrong. Okay, if you had £1 million, but you could only spend it on helping other people, what action would you take?
Do you know, I actually do think about this quite a lot. I think there are probably a few charities close to my heart who I'd probably split it between.
Yeah.
So I would probably sort of go down, and it's quite maybe a boring route as opposed to a grand gesture, but I would probably divide it up between a few smaller independent charities, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe throw a group party for everybody for Postcards of Kindness. Choose sort of a central location.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Members could come.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And the last one is, what was your favourite piece of technology you used in the past that you'd never dream of using now?
Probably a cassette player.
All right, okay, yeah.
Because I don't even know whether any of my cassettes from childhood still work, but so it's not that I wouldn't dream of using it again, because obviously if I could get the cassettes to work, I would. But I just have so many fond memories of sitting in the back of the car listening to my 90s cheesy pop on my cassette player.
Fair enough.
I think I'd go for that.
Amazing. And to finish off, Louise, where can people find out a bit more about Postcards of Kindness and the work you're doing?
Okay, so anybody who wants to find out more, wants to join, or any care homes happen to be listening who want to join in with what we've been doing, head to Facebook. We're Postcards of Kindness -the group. There's also a hashtag which we use on Facebook, and Twitter as well, which is just #Postcards of Kindness, and that will generally sort of bring you back in the right direction. But yeah, look us out on Facebook, and we're there.
Okay, cool. And clearly we get extra points if you're in space, don't we? Or space or Antarctica, we get some extra brownie points. #Postcards in Space has got to be the new one.
Short on members from space.
Amazing.
Or Antarctica. So yeah, come and join us, please.
Amazing, Louise. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So that was Louise. What did you think of that interview?
It's good.
Yeah, she's good, Louise. She's amazing. And feel free to support Louise. We will put all of her links in the show notes.
Yes. 'Tis the end of the show.
That sounded really serious. 'Tis the end. 'Tis the end. It is the end.
Would you like me to do it in a different genre? I can do.
What genre are you gonna? I'll do sci-fi.
Okay.
As we've been talking sci-fi. Sorry, let me open the doors.
In a galaxy far, far away, it is the end of the podcast.
That's very good. I like that. Can I just do before we start with the end isn't really the end and the last week's questions and all that sort of stuff? Can I read you? We've been as a podcast, we've been featured on 3 separate lists as a top podcast this week. And there's one from Spotify where they've given us a bit of a review. So I'm going to read you the review. If you relish a revealing interview and believe in the power of positivity, you'll love the Kindness Project.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Cheers, Spotify. This fun father-daughter podcast imparts inspiring personal stories of kindness and the ways simply being nice to others makes positive changes in our world. The hosts, through giggle-filled conversations, heartfelt storytelling, insightful guest interviews, covers how to be kind through everyday acts of kindness, charity fundraising and more. It's getting a bit dusty, huh? So that is very nice. Thank you, Spotify. And that was one of 3 separate reviews we got from different websites talking about how much they're enjoying the podcast. So thank you for that. We don't often ask for reviews, but if you're enjoying the show, feel free to leave some review on wherever you do.
We always like feedback, so if you have anything to say that we can improve on as well, so... Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
We do not ask for that enough. We need to focus on sort of finding out what our listeners actually think, because apparently There's quite a lot of them now. So, let's crack on with the show. Last week's question of the podcast was, when was the last time you received help you were grateful for? Hayley Ball starts with Sunday, got home from a night shift. My daughter Lauren packed me off to sleep while she took care of the kids, and by the time I woke up, Daniel, my husband, had got the kids to help out tidying the house, and he had dinner ready, so a lazy day for me. Don Kirk said, every day at the moment, for the hard work and loving care St Francis Hospice are giving my nan in her final days. Now, we've had the guys from St Francis on, and we've interviewed them. There's a guy called Andy Furneaux who talks about the work that St Francis Hospice does. It is amazeballs. It is brilliant. They help people and their families at a time when it's particularly tough. They're literally their last days. And I know that Dawn is going through a tough time with a nan at the minute. And certainly St Francis Hospice are helping out. So thanks, Dawn, for sharing such a personal story. But also thank you, St Francis, for all the amazing work you do. Alison Hagan said, yesterday at Park Run, I slowed down to walk near the end, and a lovely man ran up behind me and said, come on, keep going with me. She ran on and got a personal best. Couldn't find him afterwards, but wanted to thank him because he was truly an angel.
Aww.
Al McCann said, really helped, really. Yesterday, somebody said something kind, wished me a good day. I'm not going to name them, but plenty of others help me every day by just being nice. I love that. Absolutely love that. When was the last time somebody helped you, Charlotte?
I don't remember.
We struggled with this question last week, and you might be able to tell listeners, because I am filling right now. Because I'm looking on our Twitter feed, because what we tend to do is get a lot of social media comments. So while I'm looking at my Twitter feed and seeing if we had any comments, Charlotte's going to sing you a song.
Oh, right. What's the first song that comes to mind? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
You know what?
Happy birthday, dear listener. Happy birthday to you. Hooray.
Save that as a ringtone so that when it's your birthday, you can actually use it for whatever you want. Chris. So the other thing we had, I had a direct message on Twitter, and this is what I was looking for, by a lady who asked me not to mention her name, so I won't. But she told me a story. Okay. She's currently going through a separation at the minute, and she went to the hairdressers in November for a cut and colour. She met a hairdresser she'd never met before, and just opened her heart and was really vulnerable and told this hairdresser the story. And she was in there 2.5 hours, chatted to her, explained what was going on, was absolutely lovely. Now, this lady was back in there recently, and the hairdresser remembered exactly what was going on and was genuinely concerned about how she was getting on.
Aww.
Now, it's really interesting because that highlights that sometimes just... like, we assume that acts of kindness need to be these big elaborate things.
Yeah, they don't. They don't at all.
Just show somebody... Do it today. Do it today after listening to this. Show somebody you care by asking how they are.
Yeah.
And just listening. I think that is key, because all of us need somebody to listen every now and again.
I don't know why, but you saying that really made me think of a meme, and I feel terrible.
What meme was it?
Everybody asked who's a good boy, but nobody asked how's the good boy.
I've never seen that meme, but but I think sometimes I don't know what context that meme is in either. I need to have a look at that meme. But sometimes I know like people assume you're all right instead of asking whether you're all right, and it's sometimes important just to check. So without getting too cheesy, do me a favour, ask somebody that you don't speak to that often how they are today.
How you doing, mate?
How you doing? I'm doing all right, but again, it's getting a bit dusty in this room because I'm thinking about who I could ask how they're doing. So I'm going to do that today. And on that note, my friends, on that very sentimental note, the podcast is truly over, and we'll see you next week.